Hello everyone, today we're going to create a flashlight blueprint because it's more versatile than using the code inside of third-person character. And this blueprint will be able to be attached to any weapon of your choice, and this weapon attached to your character. As you can see here, it's right in blue in front of me. So to pick it up, the way I configure the example, I need to have a weapon in my hand first. So as you can see here, I can't pick up this flashlight, but if I pick up the weapon, now I have the weapon in my hand and I'll be able to pick up the flashlight here. As you can see, there's no flashlight on my weapon at this time, but if I walk over, it's going to attach automatically itself to my weapon. So I'm going to walk here in the dark so I can toggle the flashlight on and off. So we're going to see exactly how to do this. Now in the project, we need the weapon. So we're just going to go on the marketplace and we're going to get the weapon that we need or use your own weapon. So I'm just going to use is for the example. So I'm going to add to project. I'm going to show all project and I'm going to take the flashlight here. So I'm running on 5.2 and here the selection version is not available. However, if you select the last one, it will work without any issue. So we're just going to add this to project. It's going to download and put that to your project. So back in our project, we're just going to create folders to put the blueprint in it. So here in our content browser, I created a folder called core. And inside this folder, I created a folder called flashlight. So you can create folder by right clicking and just new folder. So I'm going to go in my flashlight one and we're going to create a blueprint class. So we're just going to create an actor and I'm going to call that BP and I'm going to call that flashlight and I'm going to open it. So inside here, we're going to add a static mesh. So here in under components, we're going to click add and we're going to add a static mesh. I'm going to rename the static mesh to flashlight. You can obviously put SM in front if you want for static mesh and flashlight. And with the flashlight selected, we're going to add a light, specifically a spotlight that we're going to use for our flashlight. So with the spotlight here, what we can do, we can adjust it wherever you want on our mesh. So first we need to click on our mesh and add our flashlight static mesh here. So I do not have one, but I'm going to use what I use in the preview. So I use the rocket, actually not this rocket, but this one here. As you can see here, so it's moving a little bit too fast, so you can always speed down the camera. And there we go, it's a little bit better. And here we're going to select the spotlight. I'm going to move the spotlight right in front of it. So I'm just going to move it right here. So if it's not moving like this, make sure you remove the snapping to the grid here. Otherwise, it's going to move like this. So you can uncheck this and place it exactly where you want. So with the spotlight selected in the detail panel here, you can change the intensity of your light, how bright you want your light to be. So if I zoom out here, just to show you a little bit better all the options. So here the intensity will be how bright it is. We have the color, so you can play if you want red, blue, yellow, whatever color you wish. So you can play with that. I'm gonna leave it as white. The attenuation radius is the distance that we want our light to be effective. So you can play with that and put the number that you like. The inner cone is basically our other light. So this one will be stronger than the other. So I'm going to put 15 here because I believe that 15 is a good number for a light. And the outside cone, well, I'm going to put 25. So it's going to look a little bit more like a normal flashlight. And there's obviously other thing that you can change, other options. So with that out of the way, the other thing that we have to do in this blueprint is adding a collision box because we're going to need a collision box to be able to walk over the flashlight and being able to pick it up. So with the SM flashlight selected, we're going to search for a collision box and I'm going to take a cube, a box, a capsule, a sphere, that doesn't really matter. And with this, we can change the size of it. So if you click here, you can change only once the number. So I'm going to leave it at 2 times. I think it's a good number. And I'm going to compile this. Now we're going to make our way to the event graph. And here in the event graph, it's going to be very, very simple. So we're going to right click and we're going to search for custom event. This custom event, we're going to name this flashlight. From the flashlight, we're going to drag and I'm going to search for flip-flop. When I press once, it's going to go to A. When I press a second time, it's going to B. So we're going to go to A and we're going to search for play sound, only if you need a sound or not for your flashlight. So I'm just going to duplicate that from channel A and channel B. And here I already have a sound import in my example. So I'm just going to go to my flashlight here. I already have a sound here, so I can just select it and plug it right there. Obviously, you can put the sound that you want for your flashlight. It's basically just a click to say it's turned on and a click to say it's turned off. From there, we need to take our spotlight, and from that, we're going to drag from our spotlight and we're going to search for visibility. We're going to set the visibility to be true, so it's going to be on when we press once, and we're going to duplicate this once again. And this time we're going to make sure that the spotlight is to the target as well, and the visibility need to be unchecked. So this way, when we press, it's going to go and play that once, and when we press again, it's going to play this line. Now, depending on your sound, you can put a little delay. So I'm going to put a little delay just to have the time to play the sound and the light following the same speed. So I'm just going to search for a delay. So personally, my sound is around 0.5 seconds. So I'm just going to put this. You're just going to have to figure out your own sound to see exactly what it is. So I'm going to do this like that. I think it's good enough. And here I'm just going to drag and do a little print string. And the first one will be called flashlight on. And I'm going to duplicate this print string and I'm going to put it right here. And it's going to be flashlight off. And we're going to compile this. So just to be sure, we create a custom event with your flip-flop. When we press once, it's going to be to A. When you go to A, it's going to play this sound. It's going to wait 0.5 seconds. It's going to set the visibility for our spotlight. As you remember, the spotlight, it's this one here. So by setting the visibility, it's going to enable the light and it's going to print on the screen that we are turning the flashlight on. And when we press again, it's going to play our sound, wait 0.5 seconds, set the visibility for the spotlight to 0, or I mean to false, and it's going to put on the screen flashlight off. One more thing that we have to fix is going to go to our spotlight, and we're going to search here for visibility and make sure under rendering our visibility is unchecked, because by default, if you don't do this, the light will be turned on in the game, and unless it's exactly what you want. But other than this, just uncheck this, so you're going to be able to turn it on and off by yourself, and we can compile. Now from here, we're just going to use our collision box here, so we can just click on it and do add event, and we're going to do a begin overlap. So when we're going to walk over it, we want to be able to have this flashlight attached to our firearm. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to cast to our firearm, and by getting the information for our firearm, we're going to be able to attach this. First, we need to create the blueprint for our firearm. So we're going to go to Content Browser, and here I already have a folder called Firearm under Core. So I'm just going to right click Blueprint Class. I'm going to do an actor. I'm just going to call that blueprint underscore firearm, and it's going to be our base firearm. So we can do all the code that we need for our firearm inside this one. And after that, we can just create some child blueprint of it. So we're going to open it. And here, all our firearm going to have a static mesh or a skeleton mesh. In this case, we're going to use a skeleton mesh. So we're going to rename that. We're going to put SK for skeleton. and we're going to put mesh. By selecting the skeleton mesh, we can go here in the detail panel and we can add the weapon that we need. So in this case, we're going to use the rifle for this example. I'm going to make sure that the weapon is facing the x-axis. So we're just going to rotate that. So now it's facing the x-axis. And we're going to compile this. So now we do have our blueprint. So if we go back to our flashlight, we are supposed to be able to cast to this blueprint. So we're just going to cast to our BP underscore firearm base. And from there, we're going to be able to attach this flashlight to the weapon. But first, to attach that to the weapon, we need to create a socket for our firearm. So if we go back to our firearm base, we do have the weapon here. So if we do click here on the folder, we can browse to it and we can double click to open the static mesh. As you can see here, I already have a preview, so I'm just going to remove that so you can see exactly how we do that. So we're going to click on root. We're going to click on the plus, not on the plus, but on right click on it and do add socket. And now if you select your root bone and you F2 on it, you'll be able to rename. So I'm just going to call that flashlight. As you can see here, it's at the bottom on our firearm. So we're just going to move that in front here. So we can click here and we're going to be able to move that somewhere around there. So if you right click under on your flashlight here and you go to add preview, you can select a preview. So we're just going to take the grenade launcher and here we can adjust around here, somewhere on those lines. That should be fine. And we're going to save and we should be good with that. So we're going to go back to our flashlight here. We're going to go to our preview. As I see here, we use the rocket launcher. However, it's not going to work too well. So I'm just going to change it and put the ammunition instead. So it's this one here, grenade launcher B. So to have exactly the same, and I'm just going to take my spotlight and just adjust it back in front of it. Here we go, somewhere around those lines. So we're going to go back to the event graph. So now that we do have a socket, we will be able to attach this flashlight to the appropriate socket. So we're going to drag from that and we can do attach component and we're going to take the SK mesh, as you can see here, and we're going to connect this right there. But it's not going to be the target, it's going to be the parent. So when we walk over the overlap box, which is the box that you can see here, and if you want to see it in game, just make sure that it's working properly. You can always click on the box here and do hidden. And hidden in game, I'm going to uncheck this because I want to see it in game just to make sure it's working good. So we're going to go back to our event graph. Okay, so back to hidden graph. When we're going to walk over this box, it's going to cast to our firearm base and it's going to take the information for our skeleton mesh, which is this one here, which refer to this weapon, and it's the parent of it. But now we need a target. So what do we want to attach to the skeleton mesh right here? We do want to attach the target, which is our flashlight. So we're just going to take our static mesh here for our flashlight. I'm just going to drag and drop and put it to target and compile. So here are the rules. We're going to make sure we snap it to target and the rotation snap it to target. However, you can keep relative here if you want to. So that way when you do this, here it's going to keep the same size as we already have right now, which is 111. If you do snap to target, sometime it's going to change the size. It's going to change the size of your static mesh and it's maybe bigger or smaller. So you can just play with that and see exactly what change it's doing for you. Sometimes it's not doing any change. It just depends how the thing are set up previously. So from there now, I believe we should be good to go. Other than we need the name of the socket. As you remember here, we put flashlight here, so you can always click on it and you can rename the socket, or you can copy this socket. In this case, I'm just going to rename to copy the socket, and I'm going to put it right there. So now we should be able to walk over this, and it's going to attach it to our firearm. So we're going to compile this, so we should be all good to go. So we're just going to do a little recap. We have our flashlight. When we click once, it's going to play a sound, 0.5 delay. It's going to set the visibility to our spotlight to true, and it's going to display it to the screen in the top left corner. When we press again, it's going to play the sound once more. We're going to have 0.5 seconds delay. It's going to set the visibility to our spotlight to false, and it's going to display in the top left corner, flashlight off. When we walk over the box overlap, which is this red box right here, it's going to cast to our firearm base. It's going to take our static mesh here, so the flashlight that we have right here, it's our target. It's going to attach this flashlight to the static mesh of our weapon, which is this one here, and it's going to attach to the socket that we named flashlight, which is right there. And we should be good to go to the next step. Now we're going to repeat a similar process inside our firearm base, but just before going there, we're going to create a variable inside our flashlight. We're going to call that as flashlight, and we're just going to take it and drop it right here, and we're going to set it to true. So we're going to use this variable to make sure that when we have a flashlight, we can use it actually. So we're just going to compile and go to our firearm base. Here in the firearm base, we're going to go under event graph. We don't need all of that, so we're just going to remove it. Same thing, we need a collision box. So under here, the viewport, we have our weapon. So by having our skeleton mesh selected, we can just search for box, and we're going to put a collision box. Same as before, make sure the lock is like this one here, so we can just click time 2. And having the box selected, we can put hidden, and we're going to uncheck it just to make sure that it's following the weapon when we're going to use it. Sometime you pick up the weapon, but it's not set up correctly here, and the box stay on the ground somewhere, but the weapon is somewhere else. So just to avoid this, we're going to be able to see it. So we're going to go back to the event graph here, and we're going to take this skeleton box here, the collision box, and we're going to do add event, and we're just going to do the begin overlap. Same as before. So this time we are going to cast to our third person character. And in the third person character, we want to be able to attach the weapon somewhere. So if we open our third person character, which we're going to do now, so we're just going to go under folder third person character, blueprint, and our third person character. And go under the viewport or character is there. We would like to have the weapon attached to the hand here. So what we can do, we can click on the mesh for third person character. We're going to browse to it, and we're going to open it. Same as we did with the weapon. We're just going to search for N, and I'm going to take is right N, and here by clicking on it, we can add a socket, and I'm going to rename that socket firearm. So now we're going to search for firearm, so we can select this socket, and by right clicking on it, we can add a preview. We're going to add the weapon that we are using. As you can see here, it's not facing the good direction, so we're just going to turn it to make just fit it in the end, somewhere around those lines. Doesn't need to be perfect for now, and we can save it. We're going to go back to our firearm base, and now we should be able to access that socket. So same as before, we're just going to drag from that. We're going to search for attach to component, and we're going to take the one for the mesh, we're going to change the target because it needs to be the parent. The target, what do we want to attach to it? Well, we want to attach the skeleton mesh, which is our weapon. We're going to take our skeleton mesh for our weapon and put it to target. We want to attach that to a socket. So as we remember, we named the socket Firearm. So we can just copy the selected socket and go back to our Firearm and just paste it right there. Sometimes it's doing this, so I'm just gonna make sure I erase everything. I'm gonna call that Firearm, as it's exactly what I put. Perfect. And same, this one we're gonna have it snap to target for all of it. And same as the flashlight, we're gonna create a little variable. We're gonna say as weapon, and we're just gonna set it right there. Make sure it's true. So when we pick up the weapon, it's gonna set this variable to true. Now from here, we're gonna go to our third-person character, and we're gonna go to the event graph. We're just gonna move the event begin play a little bit to do a little bit of space. We're gonna add a selection node or sequence node. And from here, we're gonna get actor from class. We're gonna repeat that twice. And the actor from class that we want our flashlight. So we're gonna do our flashlight, and we're gonna search for our firearm, and we're gonna take the firearm base. From both, we're gonna drive from the return value, just promote to a variable, and go like this. So the first one would be name our flashlight. So we're gonna make sure that we name it flashlight. So I'm gonna put as flashlight for the reference, and I'm gonna do same thing with this one, but this one will be as firearm. So now we do have a reference when we start the game with our third-person character. So now we can take those variables to continue. So we're gonna go here, so we can add an action key. So we can search for F keyboard like this. I know it's not a good way to do this. You should go here. Actually, we can just do it correctly. So we're gonna put there, we're gonna go to input, and we have our input action. Now usually you're gonna do input action, and you're gonna name that, for example, flashlight, and you're gonna go open it and basically on and off when we press or not. Right? You could do it that way, but just for the tutorial, I'm gonna use where I was right here. So I'm just gonna use the F key directly to the game. So when I press, I want to make sure that I do have the flashlight and I do have a weapon in my hand to be able to use the flashlight. So as we see here, we did a reference to both of it. So once when we start the game, it's going to do a reference to those two blueprints. Instead of casting each time when we press F, we already do it once, and now we're going to use the reference to it. So when we press once, we're going to search for branch, so we can just hold B. We're going to need to branch. From there, we need to take as flashlight, and we're going to take as firearm. There we go. So from the firearm, we're going to search for as a weapon. And we're going to repeat the same process for the flashlight. So this time it's going to be as flashlight. Going to plug it there. So if both are true, it's mean that we're going to be able to use the flashlight right here. So we're going to be able to use this event right here. So we're going to go back to our third-person character. So if it's true, well, I want to be able to use the flashlight. So I'm just going to use the flashlight here. And I'm going to search for flashlight function. And I should be able to use it like this. So I believe that everything should work properly. So we're going to go to our third-person map. We're going to take our flashlight here. And we're going to take our firearm, put it right there, and if we do play, so we can see we have the flashlight right here that we can't pick up. We should be able to pick up that weapon, as you can see here. And now with the weapon in our hand, we should be able to pick up this flashlight that is attaching right to our weapon. But as you can see, there's a little problem because we forget to remove the collision. So we're going to go back to our flashlight, and we're going to go take our static mesh for flashlight. We're going to search for collision, and instead of block all dynamic, we're going to put to no collision. Going to compile. I'm going to try that again. Take the weapon, take the flashlight, it's in our weapon or on the weapon. If I press F, you can hear the sound. There we go. So everything is working properly. So I will leave you on this, and I will catch you on the next one.